A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka.
I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Grade 5 scholarship exam wraps up at 2,723 centres. Results due in 1 month. Advanced level exams kick off tomorrow nationwide. New Gazette issued to protect indigenous rights and environment on World Indigenous Day. Mineria National Park sees record tourist surge. Authorities act on traffic chaos. Human Rights Commission summons prison chiefs over jail clashes. Sri Lanka Freedom Party electoral organizer detained for 7 days over drug trafficking charges. Dengue cases cross 89,000 in Sri Lanka. 65 deaths reported as larval density drops. Rough seas alert. Avoid sailing from Mathura to Pothuville and Chilau to Mana. Dasun Shanaka's Gaul Gallants crowned LPL 2026 champions.
And now the story is in detail. All arrangements have been finalized for the GCE Advanced Level examination, which is scheduled to commence tomorrow. The examination will continue until the 5th of September.
The Department of Examinations requested candidates to ensure that they are present at their respective examination centres at least 1 hour before exam is scheduled to begin.
A total of 372,310 candidates will sit for this year's examination. Among them are 264,496 school candidates and 107,814 private candidates. The examination will be conducted at 2,532 centres across the island. The Commissioner General of Examinations said that special security measures have also been implemented around the examination centres.
Candidates should arrive at their designated examination centre 1 hour before the examination begins and be seated according to their assigned index numbers at least 30 minutes before the examination begins. All candidates must follow the instructions given by the Chief Invigilator and the staff at the examination centre. Candidates must remain in the examination hall throughout the examination with their full face and both ears clearly visible. For 3-hour question papers, candidates will also be given an additional 10 minutes to read the questions carefully and select the questions they can answer.
What identification documents are accepted at the exam? Candidates must carry one of the following identification documents to the examination centre every day: national identity card, valid driving licence, or a valid passport.
If a candidate's identification document is lost or damaged, school candidates can use 2 passport-size photographs certified by their school principal as a temporary identification document. Private candidates can have 2 photographs certified by their Grama Niladhari and use them as a temporary identification document. If an admission card is lost or damaged, candidates can download a new copy from the official website of the Department of Examinations. The new admission card must also be properly certified before being taken to the examination centre.
What can candidates take into the examination hall?
Candidates should only take the necessary stationery items they need for the examination, such as pens, pencils, an eraser and a ruler. They must also carry the admission card and identification document. The use of correction fluid is not allowed. Mobile phones, electronic devices, Bluetooth devices, smartwatches and notes are strictly prohibited inside the examination hall.
What special arrangements are in place for the examination? A special emergency plan has been prepared to deal with any disasters or emergencies that may occur during the examination period. The plan has been prepared with the participation of several agencies, including the Department of Meteorology and the Disaster Management Centre. Candidates can contact the following numbers in the event of any emergency: 117 Emergency Hotline, 011 366 8119, 011 366 8026, 011 366 8032, and 011 366 8087.
In case of an emergency situation, arrangements have been made to transport examination staff and candidates to their examination centres. The examination centres have also been assessed in advance to identify any potential risks. If a dangerous situation occurs, all relevant agencies are prepared to provide the necessary facilities and arrange additional examination halls where required. The Grade 5 scholarship examination was successfully concluded today. A total of 294,089 students sat for the examination this year. This includes 220,366 applicants from the Sinhala medium and 73,723 applicants from the Tamil medium. Today, the exam was successfully conducted across 2,723 examination centres island-wide.
දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ ඉතින් නිවාඩු කාලේ සෙල්ලම් දෙන්නේ ලේසිද විභාගේ ඈ පාඩම් කරපුවම තාම මොනවද ආවේ පාඩම් කරපුවම භාගයක් මොනවද විභාගේ කොහමද ඈ ඈ ලකුණු කීයක් විතර තියෙද දන්නේ ඈ දන්නේ මොකද අත්තේ විභාගේ හොඳයි ඈ හොඳයි කියන්නේ මොනවද තිබ්බේ පාඩම් කරපුවා තිබ්බද කොහමද විභාග ලේසිද
Additionally, officials at the Department of Examinations states that the results of the scholarship examination can be released within a month.
Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya says the government is committed to protecting the rights and cultural heritage of Sri Lanka's indigenous people.
As she made these remarks while attending an event held at the Dabana Indigenous Heritage Museum to mark the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples today.
A special ceremony took place at the Dambana Indigenous Peoples Heritage Museum under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya. The event was held under the theme Honouring Indigenous Traditional Midwives, Protecting Life and Well-being. After presenting tokens and gifts of appreciation to the traditional midwives, the leader of the indigenous community of Dambana, Vanaspati Uruwarige Vanila Atto, handed over the Sri Lankan Indigenous Community Declaration to the Prime Minister. During the ceremony, views were expressed regarding the matters raised at yesterday's Indigenous Varika Sabha.
If any community in the world is to exist, the traditions, customs and rights of those communities must be protected. There are issues in protecting those rights of these communities. The rights of this generation of these communities have been taken away by the law. A country should have a law that is common to all. But when those laws are drafted, the communities of this country, their customs and traditions must be considered. We hope that the second in command of the government, who is here with us today, will take these matters into consideration.
We are aware that due to certain development projects implemented in our country and the declaration of national parks, the indigenous Vanda community faces a threat of losing their ancestral forest lands as well as their free lifestyle. The identity, traditional indigenous knowledge and the heritage of the Vanda community are currently at the risk of extinction. As a government and as a society, we must look at this issue with great sensitivity and responsibility. Our government has already submitted the relevant Indigenous Peoples Bill to the Cabinet of Ministers. Furthermore, an extraordinary Gazette notification has been signed to address several key issues affecting their daily lives, including granting permission to enter forests, registering indigenous Vada people, and issuing them legally recognized identity cards. We believe this will offer permanent solutions to many of the problems previously faced by the indigenous Vada community.
In the past, various attempts were made to snatch this forest land away from us and hand it over to multinational companies. Today, we have left no room for any multinational company to return to this land. You and the indigenous community are a national asset to our country. We regard you as a crown jewel. Having a prominent indigenous group among the global indigenous population, representing the earliest generations of humanity right here in our country, is a matter of great pride for us. Protecting them is a key responsibility of the President and the current government.
A new Gazette notification outlining regulations to safeguard Sri Lanka's environment while securing the traditional rights of the indigenous Vadda community is set to be published today. Designed to preserve sensitive ecosystems, the regulations provide a framework for traditional activities within national parks and protected areas, directly addressing long-standing friction surrounding reserve access. Under the new provisions, members of the indigenous community will be able to carry out their traditional livelihoods and daily practices without interference, particularly across the Madhur Oya and Gull Oya national parks. For your attention, the Indigenous Peoples Day has been celebrated every year for the past several years. Many authorities in our country recognize the value of indigenous people as an attraction for tourism or even as a population to be displayed as a cultural attraction. But who are Sri Lanka's indigenous people? They are the original inhabitants of this country, carrying with them the knowledge and values of our past civilization. Although the world came to understand concepts such as sustainable development only in recent history, indigenous people have lived according to these principles for hundreds, even thousands of years. The statement made by the respected Native American leader Chief Seattle in response to the colonial invasion of his homeland remains one of the world's most well-known texts on the environment. It demonstrates the value of indigenous knowledge, attitudes, lifestyles, and their contribution to the survival of the natural world. One of the main groups that has been forgotten by the rulers of our country over the past 70 years is our indigenous people. It was not only the rulers, but also the authorities and officials responsible for formulating laws and regulations who often ignored the indigenous community. Over the past several decades, indigenous people have gradually been affected by laws introduced to forcibly change their traditional way of life. Apart from a few individuals who showed genuine concern for indigenous people, such as C.G. Seligman and R.L. Spittle, a doctor of foreign origin, the vast majority of those in positions of power in this country used indigenous communities for their political interests and failed to consider their traditional way of life when formulating policies. Even today, many of the laws that hinder the traditional livelihoods of indigenous people, which are closely linked to the environment in which they live, have been created within such a framework. Not every community in the world has an indigenous community. There are only a handful of countries that have preserved such a rich heritage. Recognizing the importance of preserving the rich heritage of our indigenous people, Newsfirst has been advocating for their rights for decades. We organized a special Varika Sabha program in Dambana, the 50th program of the Gammatha Janata Mandapaya, to provide an opportunity for indigenous communities to present their concerns to those in positions of power in the country. It was particularly significant that all 6 indigenous communities in our country, Pollebadda Dalukana in Polonnaruwa, Vakare in Batiklo, Hennanigala, Dambana and Ratugala were invited to this program.
The මේකෝන පුජ්ජේ මේ ගම්මැද්ද කියන වැඩසටහන් පුජ්ජෙන් මේතන මේ රට පුජ්ජෙටම ලෝක පුජ්ජෙටම කතා දමන්න අවස්ථාවක් මන්දු කරපෙකම ගැන ඒ ඇත්තන්ටත් මේ ඇත්තෝ මාම කැච්චක් නායකයල ඇත්තෝ හැටිමට හිත් පුජ්ජෙම්ම හිටලා ගන්න.
On that day, all these indigenous communities pointed out how their heritage was being destroyed by controlling their traditional lifestyles through a different legal system. It was the indigenous people who intervened to prevent the massive environmental destruction that political authorities are responsible for making the laws of our country were preparing to bring about. Do you remember the destruction of the Rambakan Oya? The indigenous people were among the prominent groups that intervened to prevent the destruction of this forest. These are the views expressed by the indigenous people who participated in the special discussion forum organized by us in 2021 to prevent the destruction of the Rambakan Oya forest.
හැබැයි හොඳයි කියන තැනට නම් මට නම් බෑ සතුටු වෙන්න. මොකද පහුගිය කාලේ ඉඳලා විච්ච ගැටලු. මොකද මම නම් මේ මැරිලා යනවා. මගේ ආත්තා මුත්තා කාලේ ඉඳන් මේ පරිසරය රැකගෙන හිටියේ. මේ පරිසරයට විනාශ කරේ නැහැ. කැලා ගිනි තිව්වේ නැහැ. කැලා කැපුවේ නැහැ. සත්තු මැරුවේ ප්‍රමාණයකට. එකයි මරන්නේ මාසයක් දෙකක් කනවා. ඒ මාස්.
This is just one example. Many such instances can be cited. Therefore, the truth that the current indigenous leader Uruwarige Vanilatho as well as his father Uruwarige Tisahami fearlessly pointed out before the authorities of this country is that the ecosystem does not need to be protected from the indigenous people. Rather, it is the indigenous people themselves who have been dedicated to protecting the ecosystem for generations. Even today, when making laws, shouldn't we formulate them with an open and intelligent mind? Laws that address the concerns of indigenous communities while ensuring that their historical heritage and livelihoods are protected.
Minneria National Park has set a new record for its highest single-day revenue and visitor turnout in history.
According to Park Warden RMNS Ratnayaka, the park generated over Rs 36.83 million in revenue across just 2 days on the 5th and 6th of August.
Minneria National Park is currently witnessing a massive influx of visitors, drawn by a massive gathering of over 250 wild elephants roaming the grounds. Adding to the spectacle, tourists have been treated to rare sightings of Asala, one of Sri Lanka's most magnificent tuskers, who has reappeared in the park after a long absence, a major reason for the current influx. On the 5th of August, 560 safari jeeps had entered the Minneria National Park, followed by another 455 jeeps on the 6th of August. However, despite the record turnout of domestic and international travelers enjoying the park's wildlife, local tour guides and safari drivers point out that visitors are encountering significant logistical challenges on the ground.
පොලිමේ ගිහිල්ලා ඊට පස්සේ ඒ පොලිමේ වල ආපහු යන්න ඕනේ තව පොලිමේකට ටිකට් ලියන්න. එතන අපි විනාඩි 10ක් එක ජිප්පයක් විනාඩි 10ක් ලියනවා. මොකද සංචාරකෝ මින්නේරිය විතරක් නෙවෙයි බලන් ඉන්නේ. හැම දෙයක්ම බලන්න එයාලා ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් කරගෙන තමයි ඉන්නේ. ඒතකොට මේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑම් එක පොඩ්ඩක් හරි වෙනස් වුණොත් මේ මිනිසුන්ට ඇත්තටම හරි පාඩුවක්. ස්කෑන් මැෂින් එකක් මෙතන හයි කරලා දුන්නා නම් තත්පරෙන් වැඩේ ඉවරයි. ටිකට් එක පෙන්නලා ඇතුළට ගියා. ගෙස්ලා ආපහු ඊයේ ගිහිල්ලා අදත් ආවා. මෙතන හොඳ ආදායමක් තියෙන තැන ටිකට් එක ගන්න පැයකමාරක ටිකට් එක චෙක් කරන තව පැයකට වැඩි යනවා. අපි මේ ඩ්‍රයිවර්ලා වශයෙන් ගත්තාම ගොඩක් අසරණ වෙනවා. එතකොට ඉතින් නීති රීති කඩාගෙන එන්න වෙනවා අර ටයිම් එක අල්ලන්න. එහෙනම් මම අවුරුදු 27ක් මේ දේශයේ ඉන්නවා. ලංකාව දියුණු වෙනකොට මේවා දියුණු වෙන්න ඕනේ. තාමත් අර පැරණි තත්ත්වයට තමයි යන්නේ.
Meanwhile, Kaudulla National Park is also witnessing a massive gathering of wild elephants these days. However, arriving visitors have expressed frustration, alleging severe delays in the park's ticket counters despite the high tourist volume.
සංචාරකයෝ මෙච්චර පිරිසක් ඇවිල්ලා මේ යව්වේ ඉන්නේ එක කවුන්ටරේ තියෙන ටිකට් දෙන්න. තා කවුන්ටර දෙකක් තුනක්වත් ආවොත් හොඳයි. කාඩ් පේමන්ට් නැත්නම් කෑෂ් පේමන්ට් ඩොලර් කරන්සි එක්ස්චේන්ජ් කරන්න තැන් ඒවත් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වොච් රූම් එකේ නම් හැමදේම A to Z හොඳට තියෙනවා. ටූරිසම් වලින් ලංකාව කොට දාන්න පුළුවන්.
How are authorities responding to these concerns? The Department of Wildlife Conservation has urged tourists to purchase their entry tickets online prior to arriving at the Minneria and Kaudulla National Parks. According to the department, these temporary delays occur only during the season when large herds of animals gather in a single area, drawing more than 600 safari vehicles to the parks in a single day. Officials highlighted that while an online advanced ticketing system is available for tourists and guides, many continue to attempt purchasing tickets directly at the gate, serving as the primary cause of the congestion. Furthermore, to address delays caused by poor mobile connectivity during card transactions at the entrance, authorities have introduced a dedicated queue to streamline payments.
The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has decided to summon the heads of all relevant institutions to discuss the incidents of unrest reported at several prisons. Meanwhile, police say that they are expected to receive a report tomorrow on the inmates involved in the recent unrest at the Kuruvita, Pallansena and New Magazine prisons. Police media spokesperson, Assistant Superintendent of Police F.U. Wootler said the report of the investigation initiated by the prison authorities is expected to be submitted tomorrow.
Unrest broke out at the Colombo Magazine prison, Kuruvita prison and the Pallansena prison camp in Negombo on last Thursday and Friday. Prison officers, the police special task force and the tri-forces intervened to bring the situation under control. 2 inmates died in the clashes of Kuruvita prison while 15 other inmates were injured. The post-mortem examination of the deceased inmates are scheduled to be conducted tomorrow. The Kuruvita magistrate's inquiry into the unrest has also been completed. Officers from the Government Analysts Department reportedly visited the prison this morning and conducted an on-site inspection. The prison hospital is reported to have suffered the most extensive damage during the unrest at Kuruvita prison. Meanwhile, police said they are due to receive tomorrow a report on the inmates involved in the recent unrest at the Kuruvita, Pallansena and New Magazine prisons. Police media spokesperson, Assistant Superintendent of Police F.U. Wootler said the report of the investigation initiated by the prison authorities is expected to be submitted. Against this backdrop, the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka has decided to summon the heads of all relevant institutions to discuss the reported prison unrest. The discussion is scheduled for the 18th of August and will focus on measures to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future. Accordingly, the heads of the Department of Prisons, the Inspector General of Police and the secretaries of the relevant ministries have been summoned to the Human Rights Commission for the discussion. Minister of Justice and National Integration, Attorney Harshana Nanayakara says that if there is a public opinion requiring certain changes to the 22nd Constitutional Amendment, which includes revisions to extend the retirement age of Supreme Court judges, those changes can be made. He made these remarks this morning during a meeting held to brief representatives of the All Ceylon Jamaatul Ulama or ACJU organisation regarding the 22nd Constitutional Amendment. Here are the views expressed by the minister following the meeting.
The amendment to the Constitution and the Judicature Act have been gazetted. We have accepted the responsibility of informing the general public regarding this. As part of this program to inform the general public, we met with the Mahanayaka Theras, the Cardinal, and we met with the All Ceylon Jamaatul Ulama. They gave us a patient hearing and advised us to do only things that are good for the general public. When laws are being drafted, these discussions must take place. That is the reason why there is a requirement for the proposed laws to be gazetted. It is after the gazette is issued that the general public is given time to express their views. Before we gazette the amendment, no one knew what the exact amendments were, but now they do. This time is given for the people to express their views. In a democratic country, the general public, the opposition and trade unions can express their views and even their opposition. That is how laws are passed. I believe that we are showing some good features of a healthy democracy. If there is a public opinion that certain changes should be made, that can be done. But right now the general public is of the opinion that this amendment must be passed.
Today I accompanied Honorable Arshana Nanayakara and Honorable Munir Mulaffa to meet up with officials of Jamaatul Ulama, the President of Jamaatul Ulama, the Secretary of Jamaatul Ulama and other important members of the Jamaatul Ulama were present here. We explained to them regarding the change in the judicial infrastructure that is going to take place because we are aware that there are a lot of false myths that are being spread around. So we wanted to give them a first-hand knowledge.
Meanwhile, the Committee for Protecting the Rights of Prisoners expressed their views regarding the forces behind the recent clashes within the prisons. Following are the views expressed during the briefing.
Even in other prison cells, the inmates are locked up after 5 p.m. So, is it the inmates who come out at 9:30 p.m. and does these things? It is a faction of corrupt officers who are doing this. Inmates inside cells that are locked after 5 p.m. do not come out and collect these parcels. Who is around after the lockdown? Is it the officers? Those on the night shift are carrying out an organized drug business. That is the truth. Drugs are exchanged during that time. They distribute them to the necessary locations during this time. So what about this incident at the Magazine prison? Who is behind this? That is exactly what we are asking.
Democratic Left Front leader Vasudeva Nanakara says judges act independently regardless of the government under which they are appointed or whether their service is extended.
This is not as serious an issue as it is made out to be. When J.R. Jayawardena introduced his new constitution, several judges were not recalled to be resworn into the Supreme Court under the new constitution. Consequently, they ended up being removed. Next, if you take Neville Samarakone, he was someone who had been on the Executive Committee of the United National Party. He was appointed as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. However, after Neville Samarakone assumed that position, he set aside his connection and the United National Party in his mind and delivered fair judgments. At that point, J.R. Jayawardena began acting against Neville Samarakone. He even tried to bring an impeachment motion. Neville Samarakone then left for Australia. Once someone takes judicial office, they do not act subserviently to the government that appointed them. They carry out their work considering their own conscience, the law, justice and public opinion. Even if the service of these judges are extended, they will perform their duties in the apex court fairly and justly.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa says the government was given a mandate to build a prosperous country and improve the quality of life of the people and not to extend the retirement age of judges. He made these remarks while participating in the event to establish the Ruwanwela branch of the Samagi Wanita Bala Mandala.
Now, I would like to ask you, those who are present here today, living in the villages and towns of this Ruwanwela electorate. Now, that town of the other side was completely submerged in flood waters, wasn't it? Many people haven't even received insurance relief yet. Now, just because the retirement age of judges was increased, does that fill your stomach? Does money flow into your wallet? Do your sources of income increase? Is poverty eradicated? Are solutions found for the unemployment problem? Are factories being established? Do farmers growing various crops become prosperous? None of that happens. The prosperous country and beautiful life promised by this government will not be created by increasing the retirement age of judges.
Meanwhile, Attorney-at-Law Navaratna Bandara, who practices at the Kandy Court complex, shared his views on the proposed constitutional amendment to increase the retirement age of judges.
I have observed that since the 1978 Constitution was adopted, it has been amended 21 times. This would be the 22nd amendment. Of those 21 amendments, apart from the 17th and 19th amendments, the others were introduced primarily to serve the needs and narrow expectations of those in power rather than for the benefit of the people. However, I see no issue with this 22nd amendment from the public's perspective. People expect the judiciary to resolve their cases as quickly as possible. There is a general perception that cases are being delayed. I believe this constitutional amendment could in some way help expedite the resolution of cases. There is really no reason to oppose it. We see that most of those opposing this amendment are people facing criminal allegations. Many of those facing allegations appear to be afraid. But if someone has done nothing wrong, there is no reason to fear simply because the retirement age of judges is being extended. There is absolutely no reason to be afraid. Therefore, in our view, this amendment does not pose any problem to the independence of the judiciary. There is no issue with introducing this constitutional amendment.
A 7-day detention order has been issued against Sri Lanka Freedom Party Medrigiri Electoral Branch Chairman Chintaka Terence Wijeratne following his arrest. This order was obtained after facts were reported to court.
Police said Sri Lanka Freedom Party Madirigiri Electoral Branch Chairman Chintaka Terence Wijeratne was arrested on charges of drug trafficking. His wife, who was also arrested in connection with the incident, has been remanded. The couple was arrested in Hingurakoda while allegedly transporting drugs on a motorcycle. Police seized 15 grams of heroin and 15 grams of ice in their possession.
The National Dengue Control Unit says the total number of dengue cases reported in Sri Lanka has surpassed 89,000. Accordingly, 89,385 dengue cases have been reported so far. The highest number of cases continues to be recorded in Gampaha, Colombo and Kandy districts, and a total of 65 deaths have been reported due to dengue. Meanwhile, the National Dengue Control Unit says a decline in mosquito larvae density has been observed. Director of NDCU Dr. Kapila Kannangar urged the public to continue keeping their surroundings clean to prevent mosquito breeding.
නිවැරදි විශ්වසනීය පුවත් කඩිනමින් ඔබේ ජංගම දුරකථනයට News First ඩයලොග් කෙටි පණිවිඩ සේවාව ශනිකව සක්‍රිය කරගන්න QR කේතය ස්කෑන් කරන්න.
දිනුම් වැටීමෙන් වටිනා ජංගම දුරකථනයක් හෝ රූපවාහිනියක් දිනා ගන්න.
Weather first.
The Department of Meteorology has issued a red warning for strong winds and rough seas. Accordingly, the sea areas off the coast extending from Mathura to Puthuvil via Hambantota will be very rough at times with strong gusty winds.
Viara Virakon brings us the details.
Thank you, Sandharu and Arundhati. Now, according to the Department of Meteorology, the Met Department has advised naval and fishing communities not to venture into the sea areas extending from Mathura to Puthuvil via Hambantota until a further notice. The department warns that these sea areas may become rough to very rough at times. According to an advisory issued by the Met Department, the sea areas of the coast extending from Batiklo to Chilao, where Trincomalee, Kankasantare and Mana, and from Go to Mathura will be rough at times with strong gusty winds up to 50 kilometers per hour. The naval and fishing communities who are engaged in fishing and naval activities in the above sea areas are also requested to be vigilant in this regard. Now, meanwhile, showers or thunder showers will occur at times in western and Sabaragamu provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts.
Weather first.
Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan have signed a landmark joint defense agreement pledging to treat an attack on any one of the three countries as an attack on all.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran's negotiations with Oman over establishing a new maritime route in the Strait of Hormuz have progressed well and reached their final stage.
Stavin Machado brings us more details.
Yes, thank you, Sandharu. Thank you, Arundhati. Now, the Mecca Defense Agreement brings together three major Muslim majority powers at a time of heightened tensions across the Middle East. It is aimed at strengthening collective defense and deterrence while also deepening military cooperation between the three countries. So, what does this new agreement mean for regional security and how could it affect the balance of power in the Middle East? Let's take a closer look.
The Mecca Joint Defense Agreement was signed in the Saudi city of Mecca following talks between Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. The agreement brings together three major Muslim majority powers at a time of heightened military tensions across the Middle East. The pact aims to strengthen collective deterrence and defense cooperation, although the precise military commitments have not been publicly detailed. Turkey's Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has described the arrangement as technically similar to NATO's Article 5, under which an attack on one member is treated as an attack on all. However, Fidan said the three countries would determine the nature and extent of assistance required depending on the circumstances. The negotiations reportedly took almost 3 years to complete. A ministerial committee and a permanent secretariat based in Saudi Arabia are expected to coordinate the new defense cooperation. The framework could also eventually be expanded, with Egypt among the countries being considered. Turkish officials have stressed that the pact is defensive and not directed against any particular country. The agreement also does not replace existing defense arrangements that the three countries have with other nations. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Energy said firefighters have extinguished a fire that broke out at dawn at a facility belonging to the Saudi Aramco refinery in Jizan. Houthis have claimed responsibility for the attack. In a statement, it said it targeted the facility with drones, and the attack was in response to Saudi drone attacks on Yemen's Sada and Hajjah provinces. Foreign media also reported that Houthis have targeted Yemen's Red Sea port of Al-Makah in the southwest, controlled by the internationally recognized government, with missiles and drones. Meanwhile, Iranian state-controlled Mehr news agency has shared an undated video of Mojtaba Khamenei amid months of speculation about the health of the new supreme leader, who has not been seen in public since the US-Israeli airstrike that killed his father and predecessor Ali Khamenei in February. A video of the leader of the revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei, released for the first time. The agency posted along with the video on its website yesterday, quote-unquote, a video of the leader of the revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei, released for the first time. The 12-second clip showed Mojtaba, who reportedly suffered severe facial and leg injuries in the 28th of February attack, in good health and seated on a carpet in a closed room. Donning a black turban and a light grey robe over white clothing, he was seen interacting with people sitting around him on the carpet. Meanwhile, Iranian media reported today that Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei has met Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian on the occasion of the latter beginning his third year in office. Iranian state-run Press TV said, quote-unquote, the two extensively discussed the country's challenges, including public livelihood needs, the ongoing third war of aggression, future prospects, military developments, and economic engagement with foreign partners.
In more news from overseas, wildfires are continuing to spread across British Columbia in Canada, forcing thousands of residents to evacuate as firefighters battle rapidly moving flames in hot and dry conditions. Now, the situation has intensified across parts of British Columbia, with major fires threatening homes, roads and critical infrastructure, while authorities have declared a state of emergency in response to the growing threat. More than 20,000 people have been forced from their homes, with the Okanagan region among the areas worst affected. Let's take a look at those details.
It's going crazy.
British Columbia has declared a state of emergency as the wildfire situation intensifies, with more than 100 active fires reported. The most serious threat is in the southern interior, where the Bald Range wildfire has grown dramatically in the Okanagan region. More than 20,000 people have been forced to evacuate, making this the largest evacuation of the summer in British Columbia. Residents in communities including Summerland and Peachland were ordered to leave as the fire advanced rapidly through dry forest and grassland. The Bald Range fire has burned approximately 9,500 hectares and has destroyed homes and other properties. Some residents were forced to flee with very little warning as flames moved rapidly through the area, while emergency crews carried out rescues in locations where people became trapped by the advancing fire. Road closures have been introduced in areas threatened by the flames, with authorities restricting access as emergency crews work to move residents to safety. The wildfire emergency comes after a period of unusually hot and dry weather across Western Canada. The scale of the wildfire season across Canada has been enormous, with around 4,500 wildfires burning nearly 4 million hectares of land so far this year.
The Gore Gallants have been crowned champions of the 2026 Lanka Premier League, securing their maiden LPL title.
We have more details with Viara Virakon once again.
Thank you once again, Arundhati and Santanu. Now, Dasun Shanaka-led Gol Gallants have been crowned champions of the 2026 Lanka Premier League T20 tournament. They secured the title after defeating Team Jaffna Kings in the final. The victory marks a historic milestone for the Gol Gallants as they have won the Lanka Premier League Championship for the first time.
The 2026 Lanka Premier League T20 final was played at the R. Premadas International Cricket Stadium in Colombo. After winning the toss, Jaffna Kings opted to bat first, but the Gol Gallants bowlers kept them under pressure throughout the innings. Kamil Mishara top scored for Jaffna with 41 runs, while Sharit Asalanka and Eshan Malinga claimed 3 wickets each. Jaffna Kings were eventually bowled out for 123 runs. In reply, Gol Gallants lost their first 2 wickets for just 10 runs. Thomas Rogers and Dinura Kalupahana then steadied the innings, putting together a 64-run partnership for the 3rd wicket. Rogers scored 34, while Kalupahana contributed 31 runs. Captain Dasun Shanaka then produced a quick-fire unbeaten 20 off just 9 deliveries. Chasing a target of 124, Gol Gallants secured victory with 5 wickets in hand after 15.5 overs, sealing their maiden LPL title.
Aussie Rules Football, or AFL, is being telecast in Sri Lanka on TV1, bringing the excitement of the AFL to local audiences for the very first time.
And the action continues tonight with another match set to be broadcast live on TV1 at 9:45 p.m.
Don't miss the thrill and intensity of the AFL. And with that reminder, we wrap up tonight's edition of Prime Time News. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good night.